Well, students, we're gonna keep working on these dragons today. I'm gonna go back a step or so from last week, especially for students who didn't get a chance to do the eye or the nose. With this first brush, you're mostly gonna be using this bamboo brush today. You do wanna make sure there's not too much water on it. If you do need to pick up the cup so that you can twist your brush to get enough paint on all sides of it, I would like you to try to use more paint and less water. Now, if you need to practice on the test paper before you put it onto your final paper, please do that. With the eye, I'm just gonna do kind of a diagonal line, and then I'm gonna do kind of a curved line and put like a C and maybe like a dot shape inside. Now I'm noticing that my brush is not very dark, so good. It's kind of good that I tested it. So then I can just make it a little bit darker. I'm happy with the way that looks. So I'm gonna do my line, trying to be really light with my brush. If you notice that it's not dark enough, then please go back and get a little more paint. If you do want to add like an eyebrow to it, or just like a little bit of outlining, please feel free to do that. The nose is gonna go down here. I'm just gonna do kind of a C shape, and then I'm just gonna put a C inside it, okay? With that, I do like to add a little bit more detail, so adding some more outlining around the teeth maybe, outlining the jaw, giving some curvy lines to it to make it look a little more ferocious and give it a little more detail. Maybe I'm gonna darken that in just a little bit. So please think about any additional outlines that you could do. And then when that's done, there is a list up on the board of anything that you need. If you're like me and I didn't finish doing the scales or the spikes that are along the back, you can just stamp those in. And then my brush is not wet enough. Continue to load that up with paint and stamp those on, and then you can stamp the ones in that are in between to make them maybe a little bit smaller. Then you don't want them to touch each other, that's why I skipped one or two of them. Then I'm gonna move here to doing the outlining of the legs if you didn't outline, just to make sure that 7 and that Z can be seen. I would like you to outline it. So here, I'm gonna get more paint on my brush. We'll outline that 7, outline that Z shape back here. When that's done, then check to see what's next, which would be the belly of my dragon. If you look at this jaw line here, I'm gonna paint this line back a little ways into the dragon. So then this line is gonna go next to this. So there's gonna be a line here, but then I can put this line next to it. And it stops when it gets to the leg. Then on this side, it kind of starts up, well, we can do this part first. Do this lower part, and then make one that's next to it. It kind of goes into a point right here. And that works pretty well. And then you can make the tail kind of the same thing. It's gonna start out with kind of this line. And then this one can kind of come in and just kind of make it go to a point, which I think is good. Now, when that's done, you can add a couple curved lines to this. It'll make it look kind of like a snake. And I just continue that all the way, which I think is pretty cool. Now, when that's done, you're gonna stamp the scales onto the body. This can just be done in a pattern, continuing to get enough paint on my brush. If I hold it like this, I can just start stamping them. And I'm gonna make kind of a row here, and then I'm gonna kind of go, it's like a brick set pattern where they just start to go in between that. I am stamping around the legs because I'm gonna show you in a minute that I'm gonna put something different on those. So now, kind of carry this up. Give them a little bit of space. So it's kind of fun because this is a little bit of a faster part to do, but it starts to really come together with this stamping motion. As it gets lighter, please go back and add a little bit more paint to your brush. I'm gonna stamp these all the way from the back of the dragon to the front, or you could say from the front to the back. So here, work those all the way down along the tail, and maybe the tail, they're gonna get a little bit smaller. Let me check the list. The next thing is gonna be doing the feet and the wings and the horns. Watch this. If I take a lot of the paint off of this brush, this is gonna help me do some shading. I'm doing a light gray. You can test it over here. So for the feet, if I just go kind of do like a line and then a line and then a line, 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 it's like 3 lines. Then I do a 4th line here, and I can do a little bit here. It's just like a light gray. I'm not gonna get more paint, I'm just getting a little more water. Do the same thing, do a line. I'm gonna have one that kind of scoops around because it looks then a little bit like bird or little like talons like an eagle would have. If you want to do any horns with this light gray, this works nicely to just kind of bring this light gray back to start the horn. Sometimes I like to make like a ram looking horn, but you could pick different ones. And then if I want to do fire, kind of like my bamboo, just like a couple of thin lines. Now I'm gonna do the scales on the legs, and the scales on the legs, I'm gonna do something different to make sure that they stand out. That's why I'm not gonna do the same pattern. I'm gonna go with like a looping pattern, more like feathers, and then I can put lines in between that. So I think that works nicely to be able to have something that's a little bit different. When that's done, then I'm gonna do probably a little more outlining, because what I've really been doing is waiting for these feet to dry so then I can outline these with some more detail. So they're a light gray, and then if I put some black lines in here, then it kind of defines them and gives them a little more shadow and detail. So that's why I did them with a dark or a light gray. Now I'm adding a dark gray to them. Then do this one too. I can do the same thing with the horns. I'm gonna put some detail on there, and it's nice that I didn't use too much water because they dried really fast. I'm just gonna outline that. And then if you wanted to outline, add any detail to that too. Now I forgot to do wings. If you do want to do wings, I'm gonna go back here and kind of get that light gray going again. If I just do a couple of light gray lines, I did 3 of them there. I'll come back and put detail into that in a minute. If you want to do a serpent tail, sometimes I'll do just like a point like this. That works good, but I don't want to paint it all in. And then if you do want to put a horizon line on here, I'm not going to paint that over my fire. I'm kind of behind that. I'm just going to put like a line in here, and then I'm going to set this brush down a moment. With this, if you do a light gray on this, you can just create a little bit of shadow. So I put paint on it. I'm wiping some of the paint off. I'm just going to check it. Yep, it's light gray. And I can just put this in here for just like a little bit of shadow under my dragon's body. but be careful not to touch the feet because it will smear that paint. So that's the only thing that this brush is for, is really just doing a little bit of shading under your horizon line. Now I want to talk about one last thing, because I use the Sumi brushes for all of mine, but if you are having a hard time using the bamboo brush, I'll put some of these out because these are ones that we've used for years and years and years, and if it helps you to use this brush instead, just because it's easier for you to manage, use this one. You can see that it's pretty easy to handle it, and I'm used to using it. So this also is a good brush when you're done to just go back. It makes things really black. So if you needed to add a little more detail to your eyes, make something that's gonna stand out, or if you needed to, re-outline the back, or you noticed that the belly of the dragon dried kind of gray, these would be all areas where you could just kind of touch these up. But you're welcome to use this brush to paint the eye, or to paint the teeth, or paint any of the details if you would prefer this one over the bamboo brush. Okay, so let's have fun working on these. We will finish them up today, I believe, and we can put all the details in. There will be a list on the board that will help you, so let's have fun.